Thank you very much, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first panel session for today. I have very, very distinguished people sitting beside me. I don't know if I say I'm honored, it's even enough to express how I feel. To be sitting beside people who have done so many core banking modernizations. I'm going to be a learner when we are talking about it in this space. I'm actually the core banking workstream lead for KPMG Nigeria, KPMG West Africa, actually. And I can tell you for free that the experience I have is next to none compared to the people sitting beside me. And we are here to listen to how have they done what they've done, because that's what we need to learn. A couple of people have done this, especially if you look at the last year. We have Zenith, we have GT, we have Access who have done, and even Sterling who have done this. And there was a lot happening last year. I'm sure everybody felt it. It was almost like a phase, core banking delivery everywhere, right? Now, a couple of people are still going to do it. And they want to know, how do I do it right? So that I don't get as much disruption as we were getting, this past year. So we're going to listen to people who have experienced it, people who know what best to do and how to do it. I don't know where to start from. You guys are not you are not in awe as I am here. I should start from anywhere, right? Okay. So I'm going to go with maybe we should start from the end. Right? Sterling, it was a wonderful delivery. The first of its kind in Nigeria and even West Africa. And no, let me not say Africa. But, yes, we'll start from Yinka. Mr. Olayinka, with the recent disruptions, investments, and everything that has happened with respect to Sterling, what would you say is your critical driver for that? What would you advise those who are going into the business of modernizing their core, that this should be what should drive, your core banking ambition? What would that be?
I think it wasn't about technology. It was going to be about a strategic shift and almost something that was going to speak to existential risk. We did not think that we could continue with what exists and be relevant in the next couple of years. I was talking to some people outside as we were just having coffee, that the many rounds of upgrades that we needed to do and keep doing to keep pace with what our providers had to offer. And when we don't keep pace, we're being penalized for not keeping pace because we start paying extended support. And when you also start to think that those bills were all dollar denominated and revenues are largely in Naira, there's a clear mismatch. And maybe the other part of it really is value. You actually could not say this is the true value of what this spend was. So for us, it was really that strategic and almost like taking something that would be existential to our existence as an organization.
Thank you so much for that.
If I would then round it up, I think that if you have something that is pushing you just beyond maybe wanting to do a tick in the box, it almost become almost inspirational for the organization to motivate you for what is required for that change. Because like all the speakers have said, this is projects you don't want to repeat.
Yes,
and that means that if you can rally the organization about almost the superhuman, spirit that is required, that's the one powerful thing that can make your change go through.
Thank you so much for that. That's a very valid point. The strategic shift for me is what is even coming to mind. The fact that you need to continuously ensure that you are, moving in, at the pace that others are moving. So thank you so much for that. So let's go to Mr. Gbola. Yes. Now, people underestimate the effort that goes into core banking. And when I say people, I mean maybe customers, maybe other people who are not really part of the effort. They look at it and say, why is there so much Why is there so much disruption? Why is there this? Why is there that? So what for you would be some of those underestimated challenges that banks go through, or financial institutions go through anytime changes like this happen, and what can be done to minimize the disruptions as much as possible?
Thank you. I think the first thing is there's a culture issue, There's a culture issue. Most people look at it as if it's just a technology project, yeah? But really, it's almost like you're changing your entire business strategy. And so when people say, oh, timelines, tight timelines, all those kind of things, it's not for technology. It's for the leadership. The project belongs to the institution, And I always use this Kenny Rogers song, You know when to run away, you know when to hide. You have to know when to run. You have to know when to hide, Look, so we worked on a project with Laji at a point in time. And the institution had given a timeline. And they said, we're going to go live by this date. And then KPMG came in, did a review, and said, you can't go live by this date. So I had to go and present it to the board. And when I presented it, they said, no, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. And when they finished, I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is where my own capacity is up to. If there's anybody on this board that can lead this project and go live in March, I'm willing to leave it. Then everybody came back to their senses. Who wants to now take it? So what I'm saying is culture, internal. Number two is you need somebody on that team who has done it before. Everybody cannot be flying blind. Now, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, only the big four will have done it before. So use them as like a program manager. They let all of you really understand what you are getting into. These days, if I was going to do the same thing again, I'll get an advisor who has worked as an operator. So someone who has worked as an operator and then someone external. Now, there are a lot of things, communication, regulatory requirements, guiding regulators and all that. Once the planning is right, and the people have the requisite knowledge, the execution risk is lower. Look, people change core banking the last 1-2 years, yeah? FCMB changed the banking subsidiary. They changed the core banking infrastructure. There was no noise. Nobody knew. CBN wrote the institution to tell them their learning points on how they did it without no noise. The reason they could achieve it without no noise is because of the partners that they used. The challenge we all have is that we all think it's a technology product. You give it to the CIO. Look, people have fainted on this thing. I've seen people faint. CIO will faint. It's a serious matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So please, it is not just an IT delivery. It is everybody's delivery. The core change is everybody. So everybody needs to buy into the process for it to actually be successful. Thank you so, so much for that. So we'll go to our one and only female CIO. Oh my God. Now, based on your experience, what are the critical factors and the things that determine the success of a project of this magnitude, for a transformation, for a core banking transformation? Because, like he said, people just think it's something that you can just do within months, or you can just do within a few months, and they don't understand. So what for you are your critical factors that will enable the success of a core banking modernization?
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me here.
Thank you, too.
All right, so we're sitting down there and counting the number of core banking modernization or upgrades that we've been part of. In my journey in First Bank, I've been part of 4. And so I'll just share a few of the success factors. Number 1 is to have a very clear objective. Know what exactly it is that we want to achieve. That is very important because it's a community program. When you say you are doing core banking upgrade, So you have people that will come to the table and says that we must solve every problem that the bank has with this program. Every single problem. And there are those that will come with a very long wish list. At the end of this program, I want my cars to be flying, all sorts. So having those clear objectives help to hedge against such. Else we will end up in a hole that will be difficult for us to crawl out from. Secondly is to have executive sponsorship. Because in the course of the program, you are going to have to make tough calls. You are going to have to make difficult judgment, and you will step on toes. That one is given. You will step on powerful toes. So when you have executive sponsor, it can help that. I remember one of the upgrades we did last year for our subsidiaries. We had carried everybody along and every step of the way, and all the MDs were with us. And then suddenly when we got to a particular country, when it was time for rollout, the MD developed code fit. And when we listened to his reasons, I mean, they were valid. 2 big banks in their region had just done core banking upgrade and it went south. So there was a lot of noise in the media. Customers were up in arms against the bank. Regulators were breathing down their necks. And our MD doesn't want to be the number 3 person in that drama. So he didn't want to go ahead. But we explained, oh, we've done 2 countries. Yours shouldn't be an exemption. He wasn't having any of it. Oh, we said, look, we had to go to the sponsor. When the pain of not doing the change is bigger than the pain of the change, you just have to move on. You know, he said something about existential crisis. If you don't do it and you stay still, then you lose out on the benefit of the thing. So the sponsor had to get in with the big stick, and we moved on. You know, that is part of the thing that your sponsor will do for you. And the third thing that I would say is the critical success factor is one of the things that Ladi mentioned and Mr. Denny also mentioned. That is data migration. Oh, that is a program in a program. You must confront it and have a very robust program, from assessment to having a detailed inventory to having multiple simulations. All right, what you don't want is for a customer that had 10,000 in his account before your cutover suddenly end up with 10 million naira. Or somebody that had 10 million now seeing 100 naira in his account because you have done your modernization. The guy will go to town, all right? So you do the simulation, and there should be no repentance. You do it because people don't like it. It's detailed, it must be detailed. So the last cover. And it's pretty heavy stuff, boring stuff, but you have to do it. And so you are going to do it, and each person, each department must own it. There must be accountability. The risk people must own their data. It's not for CIO or technology to do it for them. The finance people must own their data. Everyone must have accountability for, the different part of. And finally, I think there are many things, and I think you guys wrote a great paper on that, by the way. People should look at it, the thought leadership paper. I would just say, line up your best hands. Set up the best. Tendency in banks and organizations is that when we have programs and it's going to run for an extended period, they send the guys they don't like to the project and keep their best hands to do BAUs. But when you are doing core banking modernization, you need the best of the best. People that knows where things are, people that can speak to the numbers, people that understand how we arrive in those places in the first place, people that have institutional knowledge. You need those guys in the room. They are the ones that will help you to ensure that you have a successful outcome. Thank you.
Thank you thank you so much. 2 things resonated with me. The first one that she mentioned around everybody wants their wish list to be delivered with that core banking modernization. I have seen it. In fact, I remember the stakeholder engagement we had for one of the banks we worked on, and we were saying, this is what we will do, this is what we need you to do, this is how you come to the party. And somebody said, oh, are you going to make all these things stop, having issues? Are you going to? It was a difficult conversation to have, because you now have to try to manage people to say, okay, this is what you will get with this, and this is what you will get in some months after that. So yes, I resonate completely with that. The second one is your best hands. Very, very spot on this thing. We had scenarios where things that should have started from the beginning, they were bringing them towards the end. And it's at that time everybody is rushing. How do we make it all work? So yes, I really, really appreciate, those points. Those two resonate completely with me based on my experience on this particular item. I know a lot of people have questions. So we have a Slido code showing on the screen. I think, yeah, it's there. So you can, go in there, use the link, ask your questions. We'll try as much as possible within the time we have to ask the questions that we can ask just before the end of this particular panel session. So let's go to our wonderful CEO. How do you get everyone to buy into the idea of we need to modernize our core, from your board to the frontline staff? How exactly are we able to get them to buy into the idea, this is required, this is necessary?
Thank you. I think some of those things have been said truly in terms of it's about the people. Just know that a core banking modernization is actually about transforming the organization. You are not just changing a technology platform, you are transforming the organization. You want to move the organization to a new model in terms of the way they execute. And at the back of everything is the customer. So maybe the challenge he has, when you put all those things, then if you're a customer-centric organization and you say that, look, this is about the customer and everything is about the customer, it helps the decision. All those blocks that you have, immediately you now throw the customer at it, that everything is at the heart of the customer. Then it changes the dimension. But the overall thing is that you have to first define the broad objective that you want to achieve with this, which is about the customer. I haven't said that. You always have to point people back to the fact that this is all about the customer. And then you have to rally the organization as a whole to actually be behind that project. And a practical example, the last one I said I did, we actually branded it. And the reason we branded it, and I'll tell you the brand that we gave it. Today, I think like I said it, the two live example people give about core banking is that you are doing an open heart surgery, or you are changing the engine of a plane mid-air. That's what happens, because you really have to continue to move. So the last one we did, we branded it Project Oxygen. We call it Project Oxygen. Oxygen is you breathe, right? It's I want our customers to breathe. And I want to do this banking transformation. All of us are breathing in this room. But if any of us on an oxygen support, we will know. Because the person will be panting. So if all of us, as we are now, like 200 people, we're all breathing. Nobody knows the next person is breathing. But everything is seamless. That's the way you want your core banking application to be when you transform it. So we chose Project Oxygen. And then we rallied the whole organization. It's like a culture change as well. Somebody had mentioned it about culture. So if I say culture, we want our customers to have the best experience. And we need to do this. Defining that. So I went to climb Kilimanjaro because of Project Oxygen. I tried the first time, I failed. The second time, I now said, look, I'm going to go on this mountain. I'm going to climb it as an example that we can do it with less issues. And I got to the summit of Kilimanjaro, So we did that. It took me 7 days. 7 days, 6 days to go up and 1 day to come down. Yeah. So, but it's about, so we had a powerful drive for the whole organization, Project Oxygen. And we rallied. The change management, it's essential. One area you cannot. Everybody from the board, we got all the board men that normally ask the difficult question. We got them involved so that they see what people went through. When you are going live, somebody said people faint. When you are cutting over, some people won't sleep for 24 to 48 hours. Then you get the board members, because they will now do a schedule for them to be coming midnight, the one that will come 2 a.m., the one that will come 4 a.m. You see, and some of them were good enough, they will bring food and drinks and all those things. So it's about rallying the whole organization, about culture, it's about the people. It's not about the technology. When you have the great partnership and everything, what is said about timeline, you have to get it done. You have to get it right. It's about planning. Because somebody cannot impose a timeline and say, you have to do this thing in 3 months. My first core banking implementation in Citibank, that's what happened. They said we have to do this thing in 3 months. People were dying. Nobody died, but some people got there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. Two things that resonated with me. One, it is customer-centric driven. So we are doing it for the customers. Thank you so much for that. Then the second thing that resonated to me is the mountain Kilimanjaro climb. 6 days to go up. So what does that mean? It means it's not an easy journey going up. But once you do it, it gets better after that. That's 1 day to come down. Thank you very much for that. So we will go to the next question. And that's on CBN has now, Mr. Yinkawoni. CBN has now operationalized open banking. So we are saying, how now does modernizing core serve as a foundation for that? From your own perspective, how do you think the core banking modernization serve as a foundation for this open banking operationalization CBN has mandated?
I think Mr. Dini did a good job of that when he was making his presentation. But you used the word foundation. I think if I go scriptural now, it would say that if the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? So I think that the core banking is really the foundational thing. And if that is not ready for the exoteric thing you want to do with open banking, you're definitely not going to be able to do it. We've thrown words like API first, cloud native, microservices. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what open banking is trying to do is we should talk with the same language to each other. But if you are going to be standing on a language that people are not speaking anymore, then clearly you can't be in the room, as it were, to do that, or take advantage of it. Mr. Deni also spoke about the agility factor and the fact that fintechs are better today because they are agile. Open banking will do more leveling because it probably means that there will be not too much barrier to entry, even for the things that people want to take, thought services and all of that they want to take. So really, the core banking then becomes the foundational stuff. Ladi did a good job of explaining the difference between modern and legacy. If you're running a legacy application, you can't even start that journey of open banking. So we definitely have to modernize in such a way where today I'm trying to give information to somebody as a KYC provider because he wants to take that as a third service. If I'm all, coagulated and bolted together, I can't do that. I can't play that game. So this becomes important. And I think that's why Mr. Dennis says it's important that this conversation is happening now, because we all need to loosen ourselves up for the journey that is ahead in that regard.
Thank you so much for that. So we'll just go into the next question, right? Now, we know that there is this need for speed when we do something of this magnitude, as the CEO has said here, where they say, okay, you must do it in 3 months, you must do it in 6 months. How are we able to balance that speed with resilience, with availability, with scalability that is required for us to actually deliver this service, Mr. Bolam?
Yinka said, tell them to do it. you see this issue of speed, yeah? this issue of speed, and someone spoke about leadership alignment. Anybody can come and say, we need to do this thing at this time. And you see, the team looks up to the leader. Once the leader cannot articulate why X has to take, and that's why I said it's like a business strategy. You're changing the organization. Once the leader cannot articulate that, you see, the entire team gets into trouble. Look, let me give you an example. Today, if people are doing a party, they won't have one caterer doing everything. Somebody will do small chops, somebody will do the main food, somebody will do the dessert. Is it not microservices they are doing there? It's microservices now. Do you understand? They've eliminated one point of failure. If the person serving the food doesn't turn up, microservices, one service is working, small chops. That's that person planning. That person will now get to a meeting and be saying, no, you should do this big bang, you should do this one thing. You see, at times you have to step back and itemize it. Have people who can speak to, look, guys, what are we really trying to achieve? Because most people think, like Rachel said, because most people believe that this thing is going to solve all the problems in the world. That's one of the reasons why everybody is saying we should have it in 3 months. You see, what people did not see before, once you say you want to do the project, everything becomes, they say, when do we need it? They say, yesterday. Now, people now take on the project. Even the person that has started the project, he knows this thing will not be delivered. You see, he knows. So when they start, he will now start telling you testing is getting delayed. The man himself, he knew that this thing is not going to be delivered. But when you make it, look, this is for everyone. Operations, this is what you need to do, and you need to do it at this time. Finance, this is what you need to do, and you need to do it at this time. So don't make it one project. Don't be thinking one project, we're going live in 3 months. No. There are various things that need to be ready. Let each of those leads commit to their own readiness. Problem will start. The finance guy will tell you, no, we cannot finish this thing at this time. And banking, we have a cultural issue that you have to change. When you work in a group system, you see that the bank is always the one that has this problem. We have a subsidiary called CDL. They changed what you would call core banking for banking. They changed the operating system to a cloud-based one. It took them maybe 6 months. If it was bank, even at the meeting where they want to agree at the board, somebody that has never done core banking, that has never seen a core banking system, he'll be saying, I believe. He'll be mentioning, I say, okay, you're not a prophet. We're not prophesying here. We are talking facts. He will say, I believe. He will say, look, after all, Sterling did this, did that. He doesn't know how many people they have. He doesn't know the capabilities they have. Secondly, you need to tie those timelines to the budget. You tell the people, you now need to spend this. You want to spend what? On what? Now, when the problem comes, 90% of people spend more money remediating what they told them to do, at the beginning. I mean, there's an institution and they had issues, and somebody told me, I told the guy, what happened? He said, the CEO said it must be done at this time. I said, and what did you say? He said, when they've already said it should be done. I said, Oga, you were not doing a project, you were just competing for suicide. You knew the end of this thing was suicide. You understand? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Okay, so we go to the next question. So we are trying to ensure that we're able to also take questions from the audience because we have a couple of them coming in already. But Mrs. Rachel Adeshino, how do you measure success beyond go live? What for you would be, what would you categorize as a successful project with respect to core banking?
Okay, I think it's to go back to what I said earlier, that before you start off, have objectives. What are your change drivers? Why are we doing this? What problem are we solving for? And after go live is to go back to those things and ask, to what extent have we been able to push the boundary on all of these things? If it's about operational efficiency, what are the gains? What are the turnaround time? So how long was it taking us to do this in the previous life? How much time have we gained with this implementation? If it's about system uptime, what was it before the program and what is it now after we've gone live. If it's about maybe the OEM has come to tout new features, sell new features to us. What's the adoption of those new features? What revenue are we getting from, this implementation? If it's about future-proofing the organization, now that we've done it, so what are the markers? What are the business indicators? He mentioned something earlier when he started off that it took the existing financial institutions many years before they could, get X million of customers. And it took these guys weeks, months. So it's about the platform we've now delivered. If our objective in setting up was to deliver a platform that can increase business momentum, what was it before and what is it now after? So those are the metrics that will let us know, whether we are successful or whether we have just spent a lot of money, lot of hours getting people to faint, and we still do not have the results. So it's the objectives that will determine the success markers. To what extent have we been able to deliver on all of those things?
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that feedback. The last question going to Mr. Woladeni before we take the questions from the audience. What new opportunities or business model exists with open banking now? Once you have established a modernized core, what are the opportunities that are feasible right now that financial institutions can take advantage of?
I think what the fintech has done is just an example of what that will be. But I tell you, personalization is going to be great. It's just like you having your own core banking, because anything you want to do is personalized to you. Artificial intelligence, even all the things we said about open banking, artificial intelligence is going to turn everything upside down. And when I spoke about what I said to you about Brett King, I actually listened to him where he made a show of what agentic AI would do. It's a voice command that you are going to give. In my house now, anything I want to do, I just use my voice. Lights, fridge, heater, everything, I use my voice. Now, the same thing for banking. I just use my voice. I want to transfer $1,000 to my daughter in Canada. That's it. It will pick it, go to the system, because there will be some word, maybe recognition model that will talk to that system, that knows that my voice is gone, everything, and it will just go there and do all the operations, and that money will be transferred. I will have no interaction with the bank, but my agent will do the interaction. How do you know the Wallace Adeni's agent that's coming to your core banking system? I think that is the opportunity I see. Beyond open banking, it's massive, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen very, very rapidly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So I have some questions from the audience, which I'll just take randomly. I'll start with Mr. Bolaho, Joshua. We have a question here that says, how do we maintain a customer-centric focus during the implementation of core banking projects when the tone shifts to product-centric? How do we maintain that customer-centric focus when the shift goes to product-centric?
What shifted?
So you could have a scenario where a couple of them are fighting more for products being available than what are we doing for the customers? So how do we ensure that we still stay on the lane of what we are doing is for the customers? We are more focused on what the customers want than, okay, are we building more products? Are we enabling more products, in the bank?
So I think Rachel spoke to it. So for me, for most projects, I'll work with an OKR framework, objectives and key results. What's the objective? Number one. What's the key result? Number two. In between, what are the initiatives or the things that need to be done? Now, Rachel said something on, when you have on a project, when you have a grade A person doing BAU, and you have a grade C person on the project, the grade C person will always defer to what the grade A person is doing. In fact, at times, when he goes to meet the person and he says, these are the things we need to do, because that one, remember that person is the subject matter expert of legacy. He's now manning legacy. You are now trying, from a project perspective, to come and disrupt that subject matter expert of legacy. So you now put, at times you find out that he's even the one that hired the grade C person that should be on the project. Because at times people are even defending their turf. So the guys in the project must have a very clear idea. This is the roadmap. This is what we want to achieve. Yeah? Once they have that, and these are the things you've agreed to do, there will be trade-offs. There will always be trade-offs. I've never seen a project where you start with all these objectives. In the middle, I mean, you play table tennis. You meet some, you know what they call robo? You meet some of it in the middle, and then you pivot. But, you know, like Mr. Wale said, if you've agreed that, look, we're doing this for the customer, these are the end point objectives, then you stay on it. On every project, people will say, let's compromise a bit. You know, if you're a product-led organization, for example, some organizations are product-led. So everything starts from the product area, yeah? And the product guys are working based on customer requirements. So this is what the customer requires. The product guy brings it, they develop it, then you now go back in. Some organizations are not. The business first determines what they think the customer wants. They put it in the project plan, they work on it, everybody has a problem. So I'll just say, look, focus on what you've agreed on. There will be a few compromises, yeah? But at the end of the day, if you're going to make compromises, make the compromises and let people know we're going to make this compromise and we're going to do this. I'll end by saying it is only in banks that everything is supposed to, you know, on go live. Let's say a fintech. They'll say, look, guys, want to do account opening. They will tell you that we're going live with tier 1 account opening. After we've perfected tier 1 account opening, phase 2, you'll be able to upgrade your account. Do you understand? Seamlessly. Maybe they've noticed that 90% of the people opening wallets, it's just tier 1 accounts. Do you understand? So they realize this is what they're building for. If it is a bank, it's a bank. They will tell you that, you see, tier 3, the guy will tell you that, you know, even if we want to do, what do you call it? Tier 3. I always compare it to Okada and Google Maps. You understand? If you, before, you see an Okada guy, you don't know the way, you tell the guy, okay, take me to number 10, Arubieke. You know, he has his own job. Now you put it on Google Maps. The map, you understand, will take you there. The Okada is the legacy. The Google Map is the future. But you will get to some places where Google Maps will fail you, and you end with Okada. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so I have 2 questions that I will merge into one, Mr. Yinkaoni. And this is around, in older banks with deep legacy issues and over 50 million customers, the question is, a big bank seems like the only way. Are there other options? Can we actually have, you know, multiple calls for agility? Or we have to do big bang? That's the question. Are there other options for migration?
There's no one answer. The answer still has to be contextual. If an organization has capacity and they have the right partnership, they can attempt it. But obviously, if you also know your capacity and whether or not whatever it is, at the end of the day, somebody has to take a risk decision, whether or not what we're trying to do is we actually want to hang ourselves in the name of, you know, getting it done, or we truly want to be alive after this is done. We've used several words of open life surgery, flying a plane in whatever. We used to say something when we were doing the project to say that there are different ways of landing a plane. You can land a plane and that plane will never, will never even, you know, take off again. You can actually have a situation where you don't actually land the plane. You actually just kaputs in the middle of the air there. Or you actually, you know, land it with a little bit of a ruffle, and then you can land it, you know, perfectly, just like Wale said about his experience of a project. Those are different options, and those are options that you have to take contextually. So I wouldn't say that this is the prescription. I think that you have to put it situationally to say what's the context of the organization and what can work. any one of the two would work depending on your context, as it were. Obviously, everybody wants to do big bang and just get it done with, because if you listen to everybody here, you just want to do the project and not have to repeat it. But you also have to balance that with some judgment call of what is realistic.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, very big round of applause to our panelists. I'm sure you've learned a lot from them. Thank you so much. So we would quickly gather for photographs just before the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much.